Hey everyone, just wanted to make a short little video about the hike that Joe and I went on last weekend. We did the incline to Barr Trail to Pikes Peak, and it was a fun hike, but we did hit a couple snags along the way. We decided to start on the incline. We did pretty good. We just wanted to take it nice and easy. I think we ended up getting that done in less than an hour. You know, we knew we had a long hike ahead of us, so we weren't trying to push ourselves or anything on that. Awesome sunrise. It was just phenomenal. Some of the colors were so rich and vivid. I mean, and the weather was perfect. It was just going to be an awesome day. The terrain wasn't bad at all from the top of the incline to Bar Camp. After Bar Camp, we continued on the trail. When we got to this sign, for some reason or another, we misinterpreted it. And it's a very straightforward sign, left Pikes Peak, right bottomless pit, but for some reason or another we went right, and I think that was supposed to happen. I'll get to that later in the video. We ended up taking the trail to the bottomless pit, and that part wasn't too bad either. The higher we got up, the thinner the trail got, and when we got above timberline, the trail was really hard to read. We could see what we thought was Pikes Peak, and we were like, let's do a vertical ascent, let's just do it. We don't need no trail. So basically we did this vertical ascent, and it was tough. It was very exhausting, and we got pretty high. I bet we got to about 13,500 feet. We got to the point where we could see people at Pikes Peak. We could see Pikes Peak. We could see the people on the binoculars. We could hear them, but we could not get there. The rock face was pretty much vertical by the time we got to the top of where we could get to. We could not get any closer to that point because there was this huge ravine between us and the top. We came to the decision that we couldn't go any higher, and it would take too much time to go down that ravine, and it really didn't look like there was a way up the other side of the ravine. So we said, let's head back. Originally, we had made arrangements with my wife Michelle to come pick us up at the top of Pikes Peak at 1 o'clock. We were on schedule to get there with plenty of time. When we got turned around, of course, that changed. When we came back down that vertical ascent, we texted her to let her know, hey, we're just going to walk down back to the trailhead, and it would be okay for her to drive back down. So anyways, when we got back to the sign, we noticed where we went wrong. We could, coming from the other direction, we could see the switchback that led to Pikes Peak, and the sign said top of Pikes Peak's 4.8 miles away. We got to talking. Hey, do you have enough energy to do this? Do you want to do this? We decided, yeah, let's do this. Okay, if we're going to do this, we need to find a way down. So we pulled up the COG Railway website, and we checked out what time the last COG went down the mountain, and we were like, okay, so it's 4.8 miles away. We got X number of hours to get there. We got plenty of time to do it. And then if the COG doesn't work out, we'll try to catch a ride with somebody down the mountain. And that was our plan. And we thought we had all the information that we needed. So we continued along the trail to the top of Pikes Peak. And, the first 3 miles of it wasn't too bad. But then the fatigue started setting in, and the last 2 miles up were probably the most difficult. I would say they're semi-equivalent to the incline. It did take some time to traverse those last 2 miles, especially the 16 golden steps or whatever they are. It was awesome, but when we got up to the top, there was nobody there. There was nobody there, and the wind was blowing, and it was kind of chilly. Up until that point, Joe and I had been in, shorts and t-shirts, but the wind up there, it had a bite to it. Luckily we had packed plenty of water, plenty of food. We brought clothes in case it was cold. I put on some pants. I put on a thicker shirt. Around that time, 3 female hikers came up behind us, and we were like, okay, maybe we can catch a ride with these people. We approached these female hikers, and they were on the phone. It looked like they were kind of upset. We asked them, we got to talking. We asked them if we could catch a ride with them down. They said they had arrangements to have their ride pick them up from the top of the peak, but the toll road was locked at 3:30, so their ride could not get up to the top of Pikes Peak. We ended up contacting the Pikes Peak park rangers and asked them, what could we do? And very, very bluntly, it was told to us that we could either continue on down the 19-mile Pikes Peak Highway, or we could pay $500 per person for them to come and pick us up. So we all looked at each other, and none of us out of the 5 of us wanted to pay $500 per person to be picked up. It was, honestly, it was our fault. We had not secured rides down. It was lack of planning on our part that put us in that situation. And it wasn't a dire situation, but it was, it was a sucky one. It was a 19-mile walk to the gate at the bottom of the Pikes Peak Highway. So I called my wife, and I was like, hey, we're going to be a little late, and we're going to walk down this highway because none of us want to walk down Barr Trail. We opted for the highway. We thought the highway was the safer route. It was a nice and smooth path too. So after a long day of hiking, that's what we all opted for. So my wife was kind of mad. She ended up calling my best friend Sam to ask what to do. He ended up calling his father-in-law, who knew a lot about the area. He said to call El Paso County Search and Rescue because they would come and get us for free. And that's what my wife ended up doing. She called them. They said that it would be about 1 to 3 hours before they can get to us. And the 5 of us hiking said we were just going to continue on down the highway because it was cold. We ended up walking about 7 miles down the highway. We stopped at this inn for a break, and it was perfect timing because right about that time, search and rescue was coming up the road, and we got our flashlights and signaled them, let them know where we were. In my mind, everything happened the way that it was supposed to. Joe and I took that wrong turn, which put us on a delayed schedule. And, had we made a left instead of a right, we would have been up there on time. And then Shell would have just drove us down. And had we not been on that delayed schedule, those 3 female hikers would have had to walk the whole 19 miles by themselves. Now, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have been able to do that. They were very fit hikers. They definitely would have been able to. But, had we not been there, they would have not known that search and rescue would have came and got us, because it was my wife who called Sam, who called his father-in-law. He passed on information that the park rangers didn't want to pass on to us. And like I said, even though they would have been able to walk that 19 miles, I think that everybody was supposed to get off of the mountain at a certain time. And that's why I kind of feel like everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. The one part that kind of made me really frustrated was, I don't have any evidence of this, but I'm pretty sure that the Pikes Peak Park Rangers knew that El Paso County Search and Rescue offered their services for free. They presented this scenario where our only 3 options were to go back down Barr Trail, which we didn't want to do, walk 19 miles down the highway, or pay $500 per person. It just felt like they wanted to make $2,500 that night. So there were a couple things about that day that were just really awesome. You know, the weather was great. That sunrise was awesome. Making it to the top of Pikes Peak, that was our first 14er. It was really cool. When the sun was setting, there was this huge triangle shadow laid right over the top of Colorado Springs. And basically, I just wanted to pass this information along to give more information to people if they choose to do this. What I learned from search and rescue is, even though the cog is going down the mountain, there's a limited amount of seats, so you want to reserve a seat if you choose to go that route. They say the average time for the hike is about 8 hours, so plan for that accordingly.